Good morning. It's 9:32 a.m. and I call this meeting of the IDEA Committee to order. Winter, will you please take roll?
Chair Cruz Crawford,
Here.
Vice Chair McMichael,
Here.
Regent Arascata,
Yep.
Regent Del Carlo,
Here.
Regent Goodman.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. Before beginning, we take a moment to recognize that here in Nevada, we stand on the land of the Washoe, Numu, Northern Pacific Paiute, Niue, Western Shoshone, and Nuwu, Southern Paiute. We take a moment to recognize and honor their stewardship and continues into today. With this recognition, we state an intention to rightfully include their voice and respect them as the 27 sovereign tribal nations of Nevada. Before we start public comment, I would like to move agenda item 8 to the next meeting. We're going to now move on to public comment. For those who would like to call in the Office of Public Comment, please dial 669-444-9171 and enter meeting ID 928-4944-5069 and passcode 555555. Is there any public comment at GBC?
There is none at this time.
Is there any public comment at the system office in Las Vegas?
Yes, there is.
Go ahead. Go ahead and begin.
Hi, my name is James Woodbridge, and I'm an associate professor in the philosophy department at UNLV. I know it just got moved to the next meeting, but I'm here today to urge the Board of Regents IDEA Committee to reject the IDEA 8 proposal and the resolution condemning anti-Semitism in its current form. The proposed resolution relies on the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's, IHRA's, 2016 working definition of anti-Semitism, with its accompanying so-called contemporary examples. It is well known among scholars that this definition is highly problematic. Its own author has expressed concern about how it has come to be misapplied to regulate speech and behavior. In 2021, over 200 scholars responded to the IHRA definition with the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism, offering a more precise definition and a more accurate guidelines for recognizing anti-Semitism. Also in 2021, the Middle Eastern Studies Association of North America issued a statement expressing grave concerns about the IHRA definition and the examples offered with it, in particular regarding, quote, a chilling effect on research and teaching about, as well as public discussion of, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on college and university campuses. They also undermine the academic freedom so vital to the mission of our institutions of higher education. In 2022, the legal and political philosophy journal Res Publica published an article entitled, "What is Wrong with the International Holocaust Alliance's Definition of Anti-Semitism?" It concluded that because of the definition's vagueness and the misdirection of the so-called contemporary examples offered with it, quote, the IHRA document can be misused for political goals unrelated to tackling anti-Semitism, notably to stigmatize and silence critics of the Israeli government's treatment of indigenous Palestinians. With all of these concerns regarding the IHRA's working definition of anti-Semitism, I urge the board not to rush into a resolution that relies on it, but instead to consult with the scholars and experts you already have at your disposal in formulating a more precise and careful condemnation of anti-Semitism.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the system office in Las Vegas?
Yes.
You may begin.
My name is Cole Nasrallah. I'm Arab American. I teach philosophy at CSN. Before taking my current position at CSN, I taught high school at the Desert Torah Academy, an Orthodox Hasidic Chabad Jewish school. I greatly enjoyed my time at the academy, and I'm extremely grateful for what my students and I were able to learn together. Having an Arab teacher at the academy, especially a Nasrallah, did not go without notice. We navigated this by addressing the differences in our cultures and backgrounds directly. We spoke openly, candidly, and with respect to one another. We referred to anti-Arab racism as the other anti-Semitism after our lesson on Semitic language groups. This is how we end bigotry. The formal adoption of the IHRA definition and associated examples of anti-Semitism categorically cannot protect Jewish students or reduce bigotry, and may, in fact, serve to problematically equivocate between Jewish students and the increasingly globally condemned nation-state of Israel. For this and numerous other reasons, the American Association of University Professors, the ACLU, and scholars and human rights organizations from around the world reject the IHRA definition. Minimally, this item should be tabled, lest a false sense of urgency lead us all down a disastrous path. As any educator will tell you, carefully and rigorously seeking more information is always the best policy.
I'm going to ask that when you come to the podium, you spell your last name. Thank you. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Sophie D'Agostino, D'Agostino. I'm a member of the UNLV College of Liberal Arts Dean Student Advisory Council, and I'm an undergraduate feminist researcher in the Gender and Sexuality Studies Department. I am here today as a concerned student who feels that the safety of diverse students on this campus is not being taken seriously. The anxiety and fear students are facing is at an all-time high. As a minority-serving institution and one of the most diverse campuses in the country, it is the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Committee's duty to ensure that all students feel safe. With agenda item number 8, the board has proposed a way to combat just one form of bigotry that students are facing, that being a resolution to combat anti-Semitism. This is a noble and just cause and is one that I fully support. However, the way it is being proposed in this resolution is not adequate to address the problem at hand. The resolution suggests adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, which is a widely controversial and incomplete statement. Even the original author of this statement, Kenneth Stern, now believes that the definition is causing harm. One reason for this is that the definition is lacking several key elements which ought to be included in such a definition. Terms such as racism are included in the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism and the Oxford Dictionary, whereas the IHRA definition makes no mention of racism against Jews in its definition or its provided examples. The only time the word racism is mentioned in the IHRA definition is in reference to the government of Israel. It is also largely unclear what exactly anti-Semitism is, just referring to it as a certain perception of Jews and leaving victims of anti-Semitism up to interpretation. Such a vague definition doesn't equip faculty with the skills to properly identify anti-Semitism and keep Jewish students safe. I ask that the board table this resolution in order to take more time to analyze this problematic definition and instead adopt one that is more concretely defined, such as the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism, which is written by decorated scholars of anti-Semitism in other related fields, such as Jewish and Holocaust studies. The safety of Jewish students is important, and measures to protect them should not be rushed. Along those lines, I would like to ask that you add condemnation of Islamophobia, xenophobia, and other forms of prevalent bigotry onto the agenda at the next meeting. Please think this through very carefully. Thank you.
Next public comment, please spell your last name.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Funes, Funes, and I'm an alumni from UNLV. Thinking back on my years as an undergraduate, I compare the past and current political climate on our campus. A lot has changed and a lot remains the same. I remember walking to the nearest bus stop after class and seeing drawings of swastikas on poles and feeling alarmed at the idea that they are Nazis on campus who wish harm upon Jewish students and faculty. I want the safety and well-being of all marginalized students to be a priority for this committee, which is why it is of utmost importance for you to use the best methods to ensure this. With this in mind, I would like to point out that the definition of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance is not the best possible definition to adopt. This definition is vague, incomplete, and partially inaccurate, according to various Jewish scholars. The ACLU has also opposed the adoption of this definition, which is why I ask you to table item agenda number 8. Instead, I ask for you to consider adopting the Jerusalem Declaration of Anti-Semitism. It is more extensive, useful, and accurate definition that allows for better protection of Jewish folks in our institutions. It also allows for protection of other marginalized groups and their freedom of speech. It is critical for this resolution not to be rushed. The safety of students and faculty across Nevada depends on it.
Next speaker, please spell your last name. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Lopez, Lopez, and I am currently a student at UNLV, majoring in sociology and working towards obtaining my master's in teaching. I have attended this university for about 6 years now. I am here today to express my concern as a student regarding IDEA Item 8. As a student who is concerned and cares for the freedom of speech of everyone, I believe the adoption of this resolution, as it stands, is not adequate enough to address anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination towards other marginalized communities. There have been instances of anti-Semitism and racism that date back to when I recently became a student here in 2018. Two that happened just that year was when a horrific and violent racist note was found in the library referring to Black people, and a swastika was carved into the dorm door of a Jewish student. Both of these happened in the span of 2 months, and more incidents like these have occurred throughout my college career. I remember the anger I felt about all of these racist incidents. However, upon further analysis, this resolution inadequately addresses all these types of hate crimes and instead focuses on conflating two very different things: criticism of a country's military and leaders with genuine anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and/or racism. This resolution will have consequences for people who have concerns for the lives of everyone, but will not target those who are actually anti-Semitic and wish to cause harm to those who are Jewish and discriminatory towards other marginalized groups. I finally ask for the committee to please table this resolution to adopt a better definition, such as the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism, which addresses actual acts of anti-Semitism, and other forms of hatred to better protect students, staff, and anyone in an NSHE institution. Thank you.
Next, please spell your last name. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Isaac Hawkins. That'll be Hawkins. I'm here to address my concerns about the proposal IDEA Item 8A and 8B. I would like to start off with a quote from Rabbi David Feldman, who is a spokesperson for an international Orthodox Jewish anti-Zionist group. It is not a difference of religions which is causing this conflict. The State of Israel does not represent all Jews and certainly doesn't represent the Jewish religion. According to Jewish religion, all of this is criminal. All of this is forbidden. The basics of Jewish belief teaches that Jews are in a divinely decreed exile. We are even forbidden to create a sovereignty for ourselves, but especially when this is by killing, stealing, and oppressing an entire people. This is not only criminal according to international law, this is a true violation of Judaism. I start off with this quote to emphasize how there are Jewish individuals and organizations who have criticized or expressed concerns about the State of Israel, which would be considered to be anti-Semitic if the proposed definitions were to be enforced. There's an obvious divide in the Jewish community, seemingly between those who strongly support Israel's current military action and occupation of Palestine and the ones who don't. The resolution states that the IHRA has developed a widely accepted working definition of anti-Semitism, but can this claim be substantiated when there are hundreds of thousands of Jews in the U.S. who don't fully agree with these definitions? How can you pass this resolution if there isn't a majority consensus among their community? This resolution claims it seeks to condemn anti-Semitism, but the reality of the rhetoric used in this proposal is anti-Semitic in and of itself for various reasons, but here I will explain two. For one, it conveniently focuses on Jewish anti-Semitism and grossly ignores the various Semitic people that also deserve to be protected against hate speech and intimidation, such as the people of Arab descent, who are the dominating population of Semites in the Middle East. You can't claim to condemn anti-Semitism when this legislation completely excludes the protection of what can be considered anti-Semitic against Arabs. The second reason is these definitions would silence the opinions of many Jews. Furthermore, this proposal should be tabled because it may infringe on our academic freedom and set a precedent that diminishes our foundational principles of freedom of speech as we know it. This proposal for IDEA 8A and 8B needs to be tabled. Thank you.
Next, please state your, spell your last name. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Christine Clark, C-L-A-R-K. I'm a faculty member at UNLV. I also serve as the co-director of the Dr. Porter Lee Troutman Center for Multicultural Education and co-coordinator of the Cultural Studies International Ed and Multicultural Education Program area. Let me put on my glasses, sorry. As a part of this very diverse coalition of concerned Nevadans across the state, I would like to strongly encourage this council to at least table any decision-making surrounding the adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and list of contemporary examples as part of so-called official condemnation of anti-Semitism that would require NSHE institutional administrators to condemn speech and activity that falls under the IHRA definition. Similar measures were proposed through resolution at the federal level, but not passed. In tabling, not rushing through this action, the full implications of these measures can be thoughtfully considered and perhaps better alternatives put forward. For example, adoption of the Jerusalem Declaration of Anti-Semitism. Nationally, opposition to the federal resolution has stressed that longstanding civil rights and related legislation already provide ample protections against anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination. So focusing specifically on anti-Semitism here is duplicative, leading me to ask why in 2020 was a definition of anti-Black racism not proposed for adoption in the wake of Mr. George Floyd's murder and the ensuing global protests around police brutality in the United States? Or why, earlier this year in the wake of Regent Boylan's transphobic remarks, was a definition of anti-LGBTQ plus discrimination not proposed for adoption in a state with one of the highest rates of LGBTQ plus suicide in the country? Adoption of the proposed measures will have, and I believe are intended by those proposing them, to have a chilling effect on freedom of speech and academic freedom for all NSHE students, staff, and faculty, and would facilitate the firing or expulsion of, for example, employees and students who speak out against Israel's attacks on Palestinians or simply in favor of Palestinian rights. In closing, I invite members of this council to join with those of us urging you to table any decision-making on the proposed measure today. In standing together, borrowing from the Jewish Voice for Peace, quote, "We choose solidarity, we choose collective liberation, we choose a future where everyone, including Palestinians and Jewish Israelis, can live their lives freely in vibrant, safe, equitable communities with basic human needs fulfilled." Thank you.
Next, please spell your last name and begin.
My name is Tevin Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T. I speak before you today as a student at UNLV, as well as a military veteran. And it's because of my service to this country that I feel obligated to be here to speak against this definition of the definition of anti-Semitism brought forth by the IHRA definition, IHR definition rather. It is because also I'm an African American that fighting against racism is very important to me, but I fear that this definition doesn't actually properly address anti-Semitism, and it conflates criticism of the state of Israel as a criticism of the Jewish people globally. Because of that, it does not adequately address the needs we have as a community, as well as a student body when it comes to combating anti-Semitism. That is why I recommend that this body instead proposes the Jerusalem definition of anti-Semitism. That is, it is a better definition that would help our community actually combat racial antagonism, as well as anti-Semitism. Again, I would offer that this body would table this resolution until later, until the community and as well as the leadership in Nevada has time to look over and make the proper decision instead of rushing into something, because this is so important, because we need to do right by our Muslim and Arab students as well as our Jewish students. I say that we table this and give our community more time to make sure that we get this right the first time. So I'd offer that instead of we use the Jerusalem definition instead of the previously offered IHRA. Thank you.
Next, please spell your last name for the record and begin. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michael Kagan, Kagan. I've taught at the law school at UNLV since 2011, and I'm proud to say I now have a child who's an undergraduate at UNLV. Before I worked here, I taught for 3 wonderful years at Tel Aviv University. The problem of anti-Semitism is very, very real. It's been here for a long time. I've seen it. I've occasionally been subject to it, connected to my work at UNLV. But the proposed resolution in item 8 would set us back and make it more difficult to combat. It would be divisive. It will be seen correctly as repressing free speech. And it will not actually help our campus leaders struggle, and they are really struggling, to deal with hate speech and harassment of all kinds, including anti-Jewish hate speech on campus. The resolution relies on the IRA definition, which is at best incredibly badly drafted. It's very hard to know what it means, and as a result, at best, university administrators would not know how to apply it in a real-world situation. And at worst, the IRA definition will stifle legitimate discussion and debates about Israeli law, history, and politics that were commonplace and accepted at Tel Aviv University. And I don't know why we would not want those same debates to be able to be had here at universities in Nevada. Beyond the definition, our campus leaders desperately need better guidance on free speech and hate speech and what they should do about them on campus. When can they step in and when must they step back? In cases involving Islamophobia, in cases involving anti-Semitism, in cases involving anti-Black racism, our universities have been confused and as a result have not known when they should step in. I'm glad that this resolution will be tabled, but I hope we use the next few months to actually provide our universities and college campuses the guidance that they actually need so that when students come back in the fall, they have a better understanding of what they can do, what they cannot do, and under existing policies and any new ones that we might develop. Thank you very much.
Next public comment, please spell your last name. Thank you.
My name is Ryan Sanchuk, S-A-N-S-H-U-C-K. I'm a Purple Heart recipient. I'm also a UNLV alumni, and I also happen to be Jewish. It's unconscionable that anti-Semitism is taking place on our campuses. It's appalling to me that racists and anti-Semites get to define what anti-Semitism is. They don't get to define what anti-Semitism is. Jews get to define what anti-Semitism is. And we need to codify that here at the university level so we can protect Jewish students from intimidation and harassment. Jewish students today go to UNLV and UNR and they're subject to harassment. They wear a yarmulke and they're walking to class. They are harassed just because they are associated with being with Israel. This will help protect these Jewish students that go to Nevada's university. So I urge you, the Board of Regents, to pass this resolution to protect Jewish students. Intimidation and harassment isn't going to free Palestine, but what we can do is protect Jewish students on campus. Please pass this resolution.
Next public comment, please spell your last name. Thank you.
Hello to all the Board of Regents. My name is Jasmine Bryant, for the record, B-R-Y-A-N-T. I am a Nevada System of Higher Education alumni, graduate of UNLV, former student worker at UNLV and a Las Vegas resident and community member who was passionate about the well-being of others, including students, faculty, and staff. I am also deeply concerned about the IDEA committee item number 8 that was moved and the subsequent possibility to be adopted and included in the NSHE handbook, which governs all who participate in and around NSHE institutions. I understand the great need to condemn discrimination and violence inside NSHE, but adopting the IHRA's, that's International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, is irrational, an assault on free speech protections, and you need to be more serious and inclusive. This definition being brought forward to be adopted is far too vague in its language and in its action would suppress the voices of Black and Brown students, Indigenous students, students of color, and LGBTQIA2+ students. During my time at UNLV, there were many moments and days I felt fear as a student on and off campus. Let us not forget the evening LVMPD cops stormed the UNLV campus and drove their motorcycles in loops around Black students, or when a trans student was assaulted and harassed by a group of students who demonstrated hate and anti-immigrant sentiment, or when the UNLV Young Republican Student Organization denied entry to Black students to to an on-campus event, or when UNLV allowed a white supremacist student group, Turning Point USA, on campus and to operate. I, along with other students and colleagues, could see there was no rush, no immediacy or urgency to condemn that violence or discrimination, or to quell my and other students and community members' fears. We need to have protections that are inclusive of everyone, not just those Regent Brooks, Regent Goodman, or Regent Arascata deem more important and more valuable. Why not adopt an anti-racism definition into the handbook? As the Board of Regents, whose duty is to represent the best interests of all 100,000 students and counting at 8 NSHE institutions, I ask and strongly encourage you all to table this resolution, be mindful of the Jerusalem Declaration, and come together to agree on a date, time, and place to hold a proper discussion with NSHE community members. And for the record, critical thinking is not anti-Semitic. Thank you.
Next speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Zachary Santawan, Santiwan. I'm an alum of UNLV and a recent graduate from the social work program, so I know all too well the importance of inclusive language and advocating against discrimination and violence on campus. My concern today is that Resolution IDEA Committee Item 8 is born out of a dangerous conflation of the advocacy of rights of innocent Palestinians and an end to the well-documented and internationally recognized atrocities committed against them with anti-Semitism. I urge the Regents to take into consideration the expert testimony heard today, as well as that of others not present, to redraft the language and so that it might acknowledge all forms of violence and bigotry and create a more expansive and accurate definition of anti-Semitism, as well as one that acknowledges the particular harassment experienced by Palestinian and Arab students on campus recently, some of which has been perpetrated by members of this very board. And of course, a greater response from all NSHE institutions to the demands of students to stand against genocide. Thank you.
Next, public comment. Please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Cece, and my last name is Carodine, so Carodine. And I am currently abroad both as a student and employee at UNLV. I come today to voice my worries regarding the proposed resolution around anti-Semitism by NSHE. It is a concern because I believe these changes can potentially harm and restrict freedom of speech and academic freedom. In addition, the resolution excludes other forms of bigotry on our campus like Islamophobia, anti-Arab, anti-Blackness, and xenophobia. As a student at UNLV during the 2020 election, there was a note in the bathroom of the CEB building posing a threat that Black students and Bernie Sanders supporters were going to be unalive on a particular day that it was stated on the note. That is just one of the many examples of anti-Blackness on campus. It is crucial to emphasize that being Palestinian or advocating for their cause does not equate to anti-Semitism. Passing this resolution could significantly hinder advocacy efforts aimed at addressing the injustices affecting Palestinian lives. It essentially serves as a means to suppress voices and discourage raising awareness about the ongoing challenges faced by Palestinians today. I strongly recommend that the board do not pass this resolution, or at the very least revisit it for further discussion. We want a definition that is inclusive and a definition that guarantees the protection of all members of our community from discrimination. Thank you sincerely for your attention and consideration.
Next public comment, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hello, Board of Regents. My name is Alana Younger, Naughton, YOUNGER-NAUGHTON. I am a master's student at UNLV and a current member of SJP. What I have witnessed over the last 9 months has radically changed and informed my views about what's happening in the world, as well as our active role in it. I came to comment today because of concern over the language used in IDEA Community Item 8 and how it further harms and distances the community this committee item claims to want to protect. Language is incredibly important, and the slightest nuances can make the biggest differences. And as an academic institution, this responsibility becomes even greater. The running IHRA definition being used in this committee item conflates anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, only giving examples specifically connected to Israel. This ignores the nuances needed because of the fact that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and equating the two sets a dangerous precedence. This takes away from anti-Semitic incidences and does not protect Jewish students and faculty who disagree with the state of Israel. Completely ignores the safety concern for Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, and pro-Palestinian students who have been followed, harassed, doxxed, physically assaulted, and I could go on. This also does not include the safety concerns of LGBTQ plus students and other students of color. The repercussions of language used in every facet of this institution should carefully be taken into consideration, and it is clear that putting this resolution forth as it stands at present shows a lack of consideration and frankly lack of due diligence. The safety of all students should be vital, and it has been clear to many students that this is only about the safety for some that matters. I've watched my colleagues and my friends, some of whom are Jewish themselves, face the repercussions of policies made in the same fashion as this with the intention of being for the people while only further hurting everyone. I ask that this committee item be tabled for further inspection, that there is an inclusion of other marginalized groups actively being oppressed on and off campus, and that stronger academic resources are used to inform resolutions and policies like this being put forth. Thank you.
Next public comment, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Brenda Hernandez, Hernandez. I am a community organizer and an alumni. I'm here today to urge the Board of Regents to table the items that would change the definition of anti-Semitism. I understand that student safety is of top priority for the university. However, proposed changes to this definition will not create safety for all students and could have serious consequences for students that are already marginalized. It is important to recognize the timing of these changes. There is no denying that there is a genocide happening right now in Gaza and other parts of the world like Congo and Sudan. Attempting to change this definition right now appears to be a deliberate attempt to silence student voices, especially those speaking out against these atrocities. Students advocating for human rights globally are part of a long-standing history of championing for humanity. These voices have always played and will continue to play a crucial role in shaping our history. Changing the definition will interfere with students' ability to defend human rights. I encourage you to pause on changing the definition and provide more space for students, faculty, and staff to engage and participate in this discussion. We all want the same thing, a safe environment where everyone has a right to exist and express their views. Thank you.
Next public comment, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Yesenia Moya Garay, Moya Garay. I'm a local community member, organizer, and alumni. I am a product of CCSD, CSN, and UNLV. I've worked on campus, I worked off campus, I've organized on campus and off campus. I am deeply concerned by the item 8 today, and I'm grateful that you decided to move this item. I am also calling for this time between now and the next meeting for y'all to engage with the multitude of people that have been here today to make comment. We have all different various backgrounds, different expertise. And so we are all offering our time and our commitment to this community to y'all to help you create this safer campus that everybody wants to do. I am here to voice my strong opposition to the proposed adoption of intentional language to criminalize anyone who falls into the vague contemporary examples of anti-Semitism by NSHE. While the goal of combating anti-Semitism is both important and necessary, we all have said that the language in this proposed definition is deeply problematic and is intentionally designed to limit freedom of speech and create a climate of fear. The intentional vagueness of this definition poses significant risks by being overtly broad and imprecise, and it can be easily misinterpreted and misapplied and or weaponized, potentially labeling legitimate political discourse and criticism as anti-Semitic. Furthermore, this does not apply to all Semitic people. And I will reiterate, this definition does not apply to all Semitic people, as Arab folks and Muslim folks are also Semitic. So we are asking for time. This definition fails to adequately address other forms of bigotry, such as anti-Blackness, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and anti-Arab hate. As somebody who has suffered discrimination on campus based on my place of origin and birth, based on my gender, based on my simple name, I am here to ask and plead with y'all to work with us. This not only undermines the fight against genuine anti-Semitism, but also chills free speech, deterring students and faculty from engaging in open, honest discussions about critical issues. By focusing narrowly and imprecisely on anti-Semitism, it overlooks the broader spectrum of discrimination that many in our community face daily and have talked about today. I'm particularly concerned about the unsafe environments perpetuated by certain members of the media, this community, and unfortunately our board. Which are aimed at sowing mistrust and silencing dissent amongst all of us. It is crucial to understand that being Palestinian or supporting the plight for freedom of Palestine is not anti-Semitic. Legitimate political discourse should never be conflated with hatred, and policies should not be used as tools to silence marginalized voices. I urge the board to reconsider this definition. Please do not pass this between now and the next meeting.
I'm sorry, your time
At the
is
very
up.
least, table it.
Thank you. Next public comment, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Wiley Roseman, Roseman. I'm a Las Vegas resident, a product of CCSD and prospective UNLV student. I want to second what the speaker before me has said, and I urge the board to table this resolution.
Next speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
My name is Jessica Bosch, Bosch. I am a resident of Las Vegas, a University of Nevada at Reno MSW graduate student, and a children's mental health care provider. I respectfully ask that the record show I second the entirety of Yesenia Moya's public comment. Please table the committee item 8 until university staff, experts on the issue, and community members can weigh in.
Next public comment, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
My name is Karen Pettit, Pettit. I'm a resident of Las Vegas since 2006. I'm an educator in Clark County Schools, and I have 3 children that I've raised here. My oldest is about to start college, and I'm going to encourage him to go to UNLV after his senior year. I want that college to be safe. And I also want it to be a college that encourages young people to grow into citizens who are going to be involved and paying attention and help democracy work as it's supposed to. So they need to be encouraged to criticize the government or be allowed to criticize the government as needed and engage in political discourse. I do want religious beliefs of all people to be protected.
And I think the policy language should clearly protect Christians and Jewish and Muslim people and all people. So we can do that but at the same time allowing criticism of governments. So please don't pass this IDA committee item 8 as written, because we need to clearly protect all students and all religions and free speech.
Next speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Yes, my name is Ed Uhling, Uhling. This proposal on its face is incorrect and a contradiction. The true anti-Semites are the U.S. government, institutions like this, and the Jewish state, the state of Israel, and the IDF. They are the true anti-Semites. The rest of the world realizes this. You can see it in the 170 to 2 votes in the United Nations. Why are we so incapable of seeing it? Israel and the United States have conducted a 75-year-old war against Semites, basically allowing their homes to be stolen in 1948 and creating a concentration camp of 600,000 refugees in Gaza, an undesirable area at that time of Israel. Palestine, it was actually Palestine at that time. If the Jewish people being held in Auschwitz during World War II had decided and been able to get out of the camp and kill every German in the country of Germany, the world would be applauding. These people are being held as virtual slaves, and I've been to the West Bank several times. I first took my son in 1989. The people that we met there had their land stolen and their water stolen, and just a mile away on the side of the mountain was a so-called settlement by the Jewish state. Water flowing in the public areas, no problem at all. This is what's been, that was in 1989. I've been there several times since then. It is absolutely horrible the way the Israeli state is treating these people. They've created a jail in the West Bank. You have to go through like you would to get in the jail and to visit a prisoner here in Las Vegas. There's an easy solution to all this. All Israel has to do is permit every Semite to vote living in the area. That's all they have to do. And why can't they do it? Imagine that our government would say, oh, people in the state of Nevada aren't eligible to vote in national elections. That would be crazy. Yet this is crazy. This thing that you're doing is crazy. The rest of the world can see this. And as I said, in these votes, they know who the real anti-Semites are. Now, we shouldn't, I agree with one of the speakers, no one should be
I apologize, you're out of
danger.
time, sir. Next speaker, please approach, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Marian Gomez, Gomez. I am an artist that lives out here in Las Vegas, and I would just like to say that I am opposed to IDEA 8. I find it very hypocritical. I also find it just redundant in itself. I don't understand how defining anti-Semitism is going to stop anti-Semitism. Essentially, it's a Band-Aid that you're trying to put onto the institutionalized problem. And I find it redundant in itself. I think it's kind of ridiculous that there's an entire genocide going on and we're sitting here trying to define hate when we're seeing it every day. When we're seeing it every day on our screens, when we're seeing it every day in our communities, and we're talking about one specific type of hate, I find it ridiculous. I also would like to just hold some time in silence for the victims that are dead now. They can't come back. As I break this silence, I would like to say, I'm tired of mourning. I'm tired of mourning all of these victims. I'm tired of coming to these useless council meetings. I don't understand what this is for. I mean, we're not even talking about our communities that are suffering right now, right here in Las Vegas. Thank you for your time.
Next public speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Chris Wong, W-A-N-G, and I'm a high school social studies teacher in Clark County. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I care deeply about the state of education in my hometown. The Board of Regents resolution, reference 8A, and Senate Resolution 437, reference 8B, both mention a rise in anti-Semitism after October. Members of the board, I stand before you today and unequivocally condemn anti-Semitism, hatred, and bigotry in all its forms. However, neither document reference 8A or 8B cites a source for that claim, nor provides any data to back it up. Look up rise in anti-Semitism, and you'll most likely find the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL, reporting an increase in supposedly anti-Semitic rhetoric over the past 8 months. What most of these reports fail to mention is how the ADL changed its definition last year to include, quote, anti-Zionist chants and slogans. In a statement to Jewish news organization Forward, quote, the ADL acknowledged that it significantly broadened its definition of anti-Semitic incidents following October 7th. Anti-Zionism, which includes opposition and criticism of the State of Israel, does not constitute anti-Semitism. It is our constitutional right to criticize foreign governments, especially ones receiving substantial U.S. military and financial aid. If we have a right to criticize our own government and leaders, we certainly have the right to criticize the policies of other nations. Legitimate criticism of nation states and their governments cannot be considered hate speech, and doing so not only severely restricts academic freedom, but it creates a chilling effect on all free speech on campus. Even the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism claims that, quote, holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the State of Israel, unquote, is an example of contemporary anti-Semitism. Conflating anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism seems to mistakenly suggest that the actions of the Israeli state represent all Jewish people in Nevada and around the world. Much less discussed is the rise in Islamophobia since October. The Council on American Islamic Relations has reported a record high number of Islamophobic incidents, including hate crimes. Most of you probably already know about the stabbing of a 6-year-old Palestinian boy in Illinois and the shooting of 3 Palestinian college students in Vermont. One has to wonder why the fears of anti-Semitism are being prioritized over the safety of Muslim students. When we stand here and talk about hypothetical threats to students, I remind the board that all 12 universities in Gaza have already been destroyed. I urge the board not to accept the resolution in its current form, as it conflates anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism and creates a double standard by ignoring the rise of Islamophobia.
I'm sorry, sir, you're out of time. Next speaker, please come up to the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Hello. My name is Ahmed Nagy. I am a grad student at UNLV. I'm originally from Egypt, and I'm studying here creative writing. In addition to that, for many years, since 2007, my writing and my research have been focusing on terrorism and terrorism propaganda and recruiting methods. For that reasons, I have been giving advice and consulting for several security agents and government in Europe and the United States. The last time was in 2015 regarding ISIS. My main focus was always to look into how this radicalization organization and terrorism will recruit kids, will radicalize kids and drag them into these black holes. And in the other side, we will try to come up with like counter narrative of this narrative. I have to tell you that all projects that to produce such counter narrative was always fall, except for the last year, we witnessed a huge change. Because like of all this time I'm working on, I was surprised that since October until now, we didn't face any serious terrorism attack. And part of that, in my opinion, is related to the student. We own this pro-Palestine student protest, especially in American university and in European country. We own them. Not only that they are stand for human rights values, but our security. Because this protest is breaking the diagram between them and they, between us, we, and they. So, I mean, my friends and my colleague, he speak about like the consequence of such decision on freedom of expression and students who are pro-Palestinian or Muslim or Arab. But I want to ask the Reagan Committee also to look into the security risk of this situation. For the last year, if you are following the news, Al Jazeera, for example, network, published a very famous map of United States where it highlighted all universities that had protest or activities related to pro-Palestine. And our university here in UNLV was, I think it was under the orange color. That's mean because like what was happening last year, suddenly the narrative in Arab world and Muslim world start to change and look things differently. So again, this protest and this activities have been going last year.
I'm sorry, you're out of
It's
time.
not okay.
Next speaker, please approach the podium
Yes.
and spell your last name.
Well,
Thank
again,
you.
just think on the risk and security consequence.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
There appears to be no more public comment in Las Vegas.
Is there any public comment here at UNR? Please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Committee on IDEA, and welcome to the beautiful campus of the University of Nevada, Reno. My name is Dawson Deal, last name spelled D-E-A-L for the record, and I have the pleasure of serving as the President of the Associated Students of the University of Nevada. I'm here today to provide insight on the resolution condemning anti-Semitism within NSHE. While I understand that consideration of the agenda item has been tabled, it is my responsibility to express the students' perspective on this important issue today. This resolution represents an important step towards fostering a safe and inclusive environment for Jewish students and faculty, and we commend the board's commitment to addressing this critical issue. We also see an opportunity to enhance the resolution by including protections against Islamophobia and other forms of xenophobia. Addressing anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and xenophobia together will promote a comprehensive approach to combating forms of identity-based discrimination, benefiting more students and ensuring that our campuses are safe and welcoming environments for everyone. Engagement with the Muslim, Palestinian, and other historically marginalized groups alongside Jewish organizations will demonstrate the board's dedication to equality and inclusivity for all affected groups. By seizing this opportunity, the board can set a powerful example of unity and support for all members of our diverse NSHE community. Thank you for your time today and consideration. I look forward to working together in the future to create a more inclusive and supportive environment for all of our students. Thank you.
Next speaker, please approach the podium. You don't have to spell your last name. Begin when you're ready.
Dr. Bill Robinson, Chair of the UNLV Faculty Senate. Our Senate's been having discussions of safety on campus related to what was going on in the Middle East since October. We had a huge discussion in December, and Chair Carvalho was there as our guest speaker. That was the day before all broke loose on our campus. And what we found as we talked to faculty, and we heard from 1,400 and something faculty in January, it is not just an issue of any particular group not feeling safe on campus. A high percentage of people who don't look like me don't feel safe on our campus, don't feel included, don't feel like they're part of campus. And we need to find solutions, and I hope the committee is going to look at ways to talk about how to make things better. A resolution's fine, but a resolution is thought, it's paper. And we need to figure out ways to really try to make things better. We already had an incident on my campus where an administrator tried to censor a faculty member's class because of what was going on, and the provost fortunately stepped in and reminded them that that's a violation of your code, which is our lifeblood, is the academic freedom and responsibility portions of the code. So I don't want to, while we're concentrating on one group, I don't want to forget all the other groups that feel like they're discriminated against, the BIPOC students, the BIPOC faculty, we've heard from the Muslim faculty and staff and students, in addition to the Jewish. And again, I hear from folks all the time, we need to come up with solutions. We need to work on solutions to our problems. We haven't done much at all, I don't think, to try to resolve these issues, as opposed to talking about words. We need to figure out ways, and I'm hoping that this group and the board will help push the campuses to start coming up with actual solutions. Thanks.
Next speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Evan Robinson. My last name is spelled Robinson for the record. And I'm here as an ASUN senator for the College of Liberal Arts at UNR, and I'm here to speak in firm opposition on the proposed agenda item number 8. As we've heard from previous speakers already, this agenda item dangerously conflates anti-Semitism with criticism of the state of Israel and anti-Zionism. I want to inform the board that I am very, very, very concerned with anti-Semitism on this campus and believe that action must be taken to address it. However, I don't believe that the definition does enough to address anti-Semitism while still protecting valid, critical, free speech. Furthermore, I'd like the members of the board who are undecided about this to really think about the ramifications of passing a resolution such as this one. NSHE states in its mission statement that its goal is to, quote, provide higher quality education to Nevada citizens while also preserving, acquiring, and sharing knowledge globally, end quote. If college campuses are meant to be places where students are exposed to new ideas that challenge their belief systems and grow, how can NSHE accomplish this mission if they adopt a definition of anti-Semitism that silences academic freedom and First Amendment rights of students? As an openly Black and queer student at UNR who has experienced frequent racism and homophobia, I understand how important it is to protect marginalized students. That is why we have done the work to provide an alternative definition that provides and protects free academic speech and Jewish students on campus. The Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism does exactly that. The definition clearly outlines that criticism of the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic and was made by Jewish and Arab scholars throughout the Middle East. Additionally, groups such as the Nevada Faculty Alliance, the ACLU, and the own authors of this definition have condemned the use of this definition on college campuses to quell free speech, thus clearly demonstrating that this definition is being contested from many different angles. With all of these points being stated, I urge the board to consider setting up a roundtable and inviting all members of the NSHE community to participate in a deliberative discussion on how to create a better approach to addressing anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Vera Miller. My last name is spelled Miller. Usually I have more prepared words, but I feel I could just share kind of what's on my mind. I come in support of the people that came before me, like Evan. I encourage you to table what needs to be tabled. And I encourage you to consider the students. I really appreciate what was said about students that don't look like me, that don't feel safe or included on campus. That has been a historic issue with UNR, and I believe that has historically been an issue with NSHE as well. We really need to show up for our Black, Brown, and Indigenous students, as well as our Jewish students. And we need to show up for our queer and trans students as well. So it's very important to understand when we are stepping in and trying to enforce suppression versus supporting our free speech rights and supporting our students. We should not be shaking in the face of a genocide, and we should be supporting our marginalized community members. I believe that is everything that I have to say, and thank you for hearing me, and thank you for your time.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Samora Horsley. It's spelled Horsley, and I've been employed at NSHE University, and I'm a graduate of UNR and UNLV. I'm here to express my concerns about the proposed resolution IDEA 8A and 8B. The resolution fails to effectively address anti-Semitism, and supporting the plight of marginalized communities is not anti-Semitic. I am concerned about the resolution because it is crucial that we do not conflate legitimate political discourse with hatred. The resolution also fails to effectively address other forms of bigotry on our campuses, like Islamophobia, anti-Arab hate, anti-Blackness, and xenophobia. While at UNR, I felt unsafe due to many instances of anti-Blackness, including the video I watched in 2017, where university police inappropriately joked about shooting a Black student, and little has changed considering the recent news and tolerance of the N-word being yelled on campus. I was a graduate student and employee at UNLV when the tragic shooting occurred on December 6th. In addition to the grief of losing faculty, I was fearful and disheartened when some Black faculty and staff received racist and anti-Black emails falsely accusing Black people for being responsible for the incident. As a result, I am deeply troubled by the unsafe environments being perpetuated on our campuses. I urge the board to table this resolution. There is a need for further community discussion. I ask for us to draw from documents such as the Jerusalem Declaration to aid in creating a clear and specific definition that truly protects all members of our community from discrimination without compromising our fundamental rights. Thank you.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
My name is Jocelyn Simmons. Last name is spelled Simmons. I'm an undergraduate and a student advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion here at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm here to lend my voice in echoing the comments regarding defining anti-Semitism. We need to confront the vile nature of anti-Semitism while ardently preserving the democratic principles of free speech. Anti-Semitism is a serious and deplorable form of hate that can manifest as harassment, discrimination, and violence against Jewish individuals and communities. As such, it is essential that we remain vigilant in combating it when and wherever it emerges. However, in our efforts to fight anti-Semitism, we must be careful not to stifle legitimate political criticism. The First Amendment protects our right to criticize any government, including the Israeli government. This kind of political discourse is a cornerstone of our democracy. The American Civil Liberties Union has pointed out the dangers of adopting overly broad definitions of anti-Semitism, such as the one proposed by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. This definition risks conflating legitimate criticism of Israeli governmental policies and actions with anti-Semitism, therein eroding free speech and academic freedom. We must ensure that our definitions of anti-Semitism focus on genuine hate speech and hate crimes without encroaching on protected political speech, existing legal frameworks already provide mechanisms to address harassment and discrimination, including anti-Semitism, without resorting to definitions that threaten free expression. Our colleges and universities need to be havens of open debate and the free exchange of ideas. Overly restrictive definitions can and will ultimately lead to censorship, undermining academic missions and inhibiting critical discussions. Let us strive for a balanced approach that clearly distinguishes between hate speech and legitimate political criticism. In doing so, we uphold our cherished democratic values while vigilantly combating anti-Semitism. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Fatima Azmi, last name spelled A-Z-M-E-E. I'd like to thank the board for tabling agenda item 8. In the future, when the board does revisit this item, I hope the board does not forget all of the public comments against this item and take into consideration everything that the students, faculty, and staff has said. I hope the board addresses anti-Semitism in a way that will actually protect Jewish students and Jewish faculty, Jewish staff on campus, but also work to ensure the safety of students from Islamophobia, anti-Arab sentiments, anti-Blackness, xenophobia, homophobia. I hope the board will protect all students, faculty, and staff across Nevada without ulterior motive. To limit First Amendment rights, academic discourse, please take the time between this meeting and the next meeting to engage with every minority group before adopting new language that will ensure the protection of all Nevadans accessing NSHE and NSHE's institutions. Thank you.
Next speaker, please approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Good morning. I'm Jim New, N-E-W, President of the Nevada Faculty Alliance. I just want to take a quick moment to thank the committee for delaying consideration of item 8 today. And I hope that you will take the advice of many of our students, including Mr. Robinson, who recommends that you take the time before you consider it again to assemble a broad-based group of students, faculty, and other community members to develop a more careful, thoughtful, and inclusive definition to help fight this insidious problem that we have on our campuses. Thank you.
Next speaker, please spell your last name and begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Jenna Nahara, last name N-A-J-E-R-A, and I am here referencing item number 6, which is in representation of the Undocumented Student Success Council. I am currently the manager of the Undocumented Student Program here at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm also a member of the Undocumented Student Success Council, and I would like to ask for your support in continuing conversations that will provide more inclusive opportunities for the undocumented student community. We are all aware that some policies have already been passed. Back in 2019, AB 275 to provide professional licensure regardless of immigration status for individuals in the state of Nevada. And in 2023, AB 226, which provided a more inclusive opportunity for TPS individuals to receive in-state tuition. But we are hoping that we can continue to enact and take part in matters that can continue to increase the opportunities for our students within the state altogether. And so I would like to thank you for your time today.
Is there any more public comment here in Reno?
Excuse me, Chair. May I say something? Thank you. I believe this is the only space I can speak about this, so I just wanted to read a statement. I received over 2,000 emails in support of this resolution. And this resolution was a bipartisan item that was passed in the United States Senate. We took the language verbatim from the Blackburn-Rosen resolution, and yet we can't pass it here. The fact that so many individuals would oppose a benign item where the only goal was to protect Jewish students says but one thing to me, that anti-Semitism is real. And this is very upsetting. Since the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel, we have seen an unprecedented increase in anti-Semitic incidents worldwide. There have been 920 anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses from October 7th through April 25th, a 423% increase over the same time 1 year ago. To stand by and not take action makes you complicit. The political motivations, quite evident here, make me sick. This was a resolution where the sole purpose was to say to all students, we've heard our Jewish students, our parents and advocates, and this resolution is not political. This resolution is about doing what is right. I advise all of you to take heed the wise words of Winston Churchill, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I will not stand by and accept this hate. I read this into the record in 2023, and it was finally getting on the agenda now. You are all taking a stand at a dire time in humanity. And all of you who came up here and said what you said, you're on the wrong side of history.
You're on the wrong side. Is there any more public comment here at UNR? SCS, is there any public comment on the phone?
Yes, Madam Chair. Caller with the number ending in 3319, please press *6 to unmute. State and spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the committee. The caller's unmuted, but we're not hearing him.
Okay, can we move on to the next caller and have them call back if they hear this? Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2625, please press *6 to unmute. State and spell your last name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Hello and good morning, board. My name is Jasmine Merker, and I considered pursuing my master's at Nevada campuses, likely leaning to UNR. But after living here as an adult the last 4 years, I've continuously seen the universities fail their students, fail their values, fail their morals, when academic institutions are supposed to protect the quote-unquote freedoms we were granted. Before ivory towers, before cement highways, there were indigenous lands and ways. These freedoms are inherent to human beings and creation. The dangers of adopting an incomplete anti-Semitism definition, the rug sweeping of the state of Israel, and the U.S.'s role in imperialism and genocide, all which should be criticized. By censoring free exchange and not allowing student bodies to feel what they do is right in pursuit of justice, by risking police brutality, you as the board are responsible for creating a safe environment, and to which you are failing to do so now if you do adopt this incomplete language. Do not leave Arab, Muslim, Palestinian students out of this. Recognize that Jewish relatives are at the forefront of liberation. They are at the forefront of the creation of a new world. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And like someone said earlier, critical thinking is not anti-Semitism. Please delay, please consider, and please reevaluate. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
SCS, next caller.
Caller with the number ending in 3319, I see you're unmuted. Go ahead and state and spell your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Hi, can I ask if you can hear me? Apologies.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ricardo Rubalcaba, last name Rubalcaba, and I am an alumni of the University of Nevada, Reno. I will preface by saying that on November 3rd, 2022, 128 leading scholars in anti-Semitism submitted a statement addressing the UN, asking the organization not to adopt the IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism. In the statement, Dr. Tunde Achume, former UN Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Racism, described the language of this definition as vague and incoherent. For example, the definition states that manifestations of anti-Semitism do not include criticism of Israel, similar to that leveled against any other country. However, the definition also states that defining the Jewish people or that denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, such as by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor, contradicts the previously mentioned statement. This definition conflates the dependence of Jewish identity with the existence of an apartheid state. We are not here today denying that Jewish individuals' right to self-determination. However, I ask the committee, why are you not taking action to protect both your Jewish and Palestinian and other Southwest Asian and North African student populations? It is not lost to us that these resolutions are coming at a time in which international protests have emerged in response to the violence inflicted by the Israeli occupation against Palestinians. In your resolution, you state that acts of harassment and violence based on religion, national origin, or ancestry have no place at institutions of higher education. However, to adopt this resolution is to deny the ancestry, history, and experiences of Palestinian students and their family members who have faced state violence at the hands of the Israeli occupation. Not to mention the police brutality and state violence both Palestinian and Jewish groups are enduring at college encampments around the country and globally right now. I question the integrity and credibility of a system of higher education that fails to comprehend that the passing of such a resolution will undoubtedly result in negative impacts for Palestinian and Jewish students alike. I ask that you table the agenda item and that NSHE work to adopt protections such as the Jerusalem Declaration that is responsive to the present moment and inclusive of Palestinian, Jewish, and other historically marginalized student bodies. Thank you.
That's all the callers we have at this time, Madam Chair.
Hearing no additional public comment, I'll move on to agenda item 2. For agenda item 2, the minutes, the committee will consider the approval of the minutes from the November 15, 2023 meeting. At that time, I was not the chair. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I had Del Carlo first. Thank you. Regent Del Carlo, sorry. I have a motion and a second by Regent Arascata and Regent Del Carlo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We're now moving on to agenda item number 3, the chair's report. I will just be very, very brief because we're a little short on time. This is my first time leading the IDEA committee. I wanted to let you know that it is a privilege to represent all of our faculty, staff, students, and community from all backgrounds. This is my passion. I do know that education is the key to upward mobility, and I take this job very, very, very seriously. As a former product of foster care and having opportunities that were not given to my siblings, I know that having these protections in place for all of our students are very important for our society. In addition, I wanted to thank Chair Carvalho for placing me in this committee. It is my life's work as a principal in a Title I community to make sure that all of my students are successful, and I carry that work up to the university level. In addition, I do have my doctorate in organizational leadership with a focus on equity policy. That's really taught me a lot about the importance of collaboration, and you'll see that on the next agenda item, the level of collaboration I've worked on in this committee. Before we get to the next agenda item, a few items. I was lucky enough to be the keynote speaker at the UNLV Latino graduation ceremony. So I wanted to thank Dr. President Whitfield on that. I was able to attend the African American graduation where I got to hear a lot of the history of our community, the Black community, specifically from the historic West Side, which was really enlightening. I spent a lot of time trying to educate myself on diversity initiatives so that I can support all of our students. I was able to go to the Northern Nevada Diversity Summit. In addition, I was able to bring, it is a community event, so I was able to bring the National Guard with us as well, so we can also train our diversity units. So thank you for the opportunity. And last, I don't know what this last item was. Anyways, we're going to move on. I just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity and know that I take this role very, very seriously, and I want to protect all of our students, all of our staff, and all of our communities so that everyone is free to have a safe environment to learn and be successful in their workplace. And I'll do that through collaboration, and that takes time. Number 4, we're going to begin. This is an information-only item on the Northern Nevada Diversity Summit. And we're going to have Cheyenne, the NSHE specialist, share on this.
Good morning. My name is Cheyenne Mukpantai. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the NSHE specialist in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Nevada, Reno. This spring, the university hosted the 12th annual Northern Nevada Diversity Summit on February 22nd from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Joe Crowley Student Union. The theme, Critical, Constructive, and Courageous Conversations, was chosen in collaboration with the university's Cultural Diversity Committee and affinity group leaders. This year, we had 700 participants register to attend the Diversity Summit. Participants included NSHE Regents, thank you for joining us, faculty, staff, and students, as well as community members. Among the 700 participants, 525 registered online and 125 registered in person on the day of the event. Among the online registrants, 27 indicated they were community members from the City of Reno, Clark County School District, Washoe County School District, the Nevada Department of Education, the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, Northern Nevada Public Health, and the Nevada Air National Guard. Thank you, Regent Cruz Crawford, for extending that invitation. We want to thank our sponsoring partners, the Joe Crowley Student Union, the University Police Department Northern Command, University Nevada Reno Center for Student Engagement IDEA Department, Desert Research Institute, Truckee Meadows Community College, and Western Nevada College. This year, we had 56 volunteers and 113 presenters who all received a certificate of recognition from the university signed by the Office of the President and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to acknowledge the incredible effort in making this event a success. This year, the Diversity Summit schedule included 23 concurrent 1-hour sessions and 1 2-hour session. These sessions consisted of 4 panels, 11 workshops, and 9 lectures. We ended the day with a 1-hour poster session with 19 posters displayed and presented by university faculty, staff, and students from UNR, Team CC, and community allies and advocates. In the session feedback received, participants shared their appreciation for the improved directional signage and suggested defined DEI practitioner skill levels for each session. Participants stated the session topics were excellent and included insightful data, stories, and resources. And the presenters were skilled, well-versed, and led engaging conversations. Our keynote talk on conversations, How Emotions Impact Our Relationships by Dr. Maisha Cherry, Associate Professor at University of California, Riverside, and Director of the Emotion and Society Lab, uses their framework built on her research for failures of forgiveness, what we get wrong, and how we do better. 350 Diversity Summit participants attended Dr. Cherry's talk, and the feedback included, the keynote speaker was absolutely phenomenal. I like that she didn't shy away from the difficult topics. Her presentation was engaging, informative, action-oriented, and easy to follow. The keynote speaker was fantastic. She did a great job of framing learning as a conversation and how we could implement changes to make the conversations easier. And finally, the Northern Nevada Diversity Summit Student Speech Contest gives students the Northern NSHE institutions the opportunity to share their thoughts on a predetermined topic relating to the summit theme. Students whose speech best engaged the topics were awarded a $500 prize for first place, a $300 prize for second place, and a $150 prize for third place. I would like to congratulate our first Great Basin College Student Speech Contest winner, Brandolyn Tran, for winning first place prize. And congratulations to the University of Nevada, Reno students first place winner, Sarah Hartzell, second place winner, Jocelyn Simmons, and third place winner, Gabriella Dietrich. And finally, I'd like to thank all of the Diversity Summit participants for joining us as leaders of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access for the state of Nevada.
Thank you so much. Is there any comment at this time? Questions or comments? Could you stay up here? Yeah. Is it Miss or Doctor?
Mrs.
Oh, Mrs. Mag. Can you pronounce your last name for the record?
Mugpontai.
Mugpontai. Told me the wrong thing. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item. Thank you. For this next item is information only. Agenda item 5, community engagement report and idea council priorities for the year of 2025. We have 15 minutes for this item and approximately 15 slides. So just a reminder that we are going to go through this rather quickly. Thank you.
Is this thing on? Oh. Is this the clicker that I use?
Yeah, we have Dr. Tiller Williams will be starting out the presentation of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Cruz Crawford, Vice Chair Downs, members of the committee, presidents and general public. For the record, Tillery Williams, Director of Community Engagement, Equity and Inclusion for the Nevada System of Higher Education System Administration Office. So today I'm going to present to you, with the help of a few of my colleagues, the NSHE Idea Council and Idea Committees Community Engagement Report and recommended Idea Council priorities for fiscal year 2025. Do I say next slide, please, or do I use this? Next slide, please. So a little bit about today's presentation. I want to talk about the road that we took to get here to these priorities and some next steps for moving forward with the idea-related work that we're doing out here, not only within NSHE, but out in our communities. We're going to introduce the IDEA committee members and the charge that they have that's vested in them by the handbook, the IDEA Council and its collaboration with the committee, and Chair Cruz Crawford, some NSHE community system-wide collaboration, and then we will go into the 2025 recommended priorities as recommended by the IDEA Council and the Chancellor. Next slide, please. So I'd like to take this time to introduce to you your current IDEA committee members. We have Regent Michelle Cruz Crawford, who is our chair, Regent McMichael, who is our vice chair, Regent Arascata, Regent Carol Del Carlo, and Regent Goodman. Next slide, please. One of the things I'd like to say before I get started here with the IDEA Committee, I do believe that the Board of Regents is in a very, very good space when it comes to being able to bring certain things forward, specifically for this IDEA inclusion, diversity, equity, and access space. We do have a dedicated committee at the board level that talks about these issues that, as you all know, can become very divisive and political in nature, but at the end of the day, we have a certain level at the board level of of a place we can bring these issues to the table and have a very good collaborative dialogue. So I'll read off some of these things as far as charge to you. So number one of the things that the IDEA Committee is responsible for is recommending policy to the board to create, enhance, promote, and support an educational and working environment that fosters inclusion, diversity, equity, and access for all students, faculty, and staff. And two, when we say the IDEA Council, what we really mean is a group of individuals from the different institutions who get together, appointed by the chancellor, and they serve kind of as in an advisory role. But the committee's charge, as you see there, is to collaborate with the IDEA Council to review and assess issues, information, and activities that promote inclusion, diversity, equity, and access among the students, staff, and faculty of the system. And so I'll just hit those two key points because much of the rest of the presentation is geared towards the work of the council, leading the effort and working with Regent Cruz Crawford in this committee to come at some of the recommendations that we've identified. Next slide, please. And for this particular part of the presentation, I do have the IDEA Council chair here with me to present on the next few slides. So if we could have Angela come up to take care of the next few slides.
Good morning, Angela Holt, for the record. I am the Director of College and Career Readiness at Western Nevada College and the current chair of the IDEA Council. So the council serves the chancellor in the capacity where we are the diversity officers on each campus. We meet monthly, and it's either us or our designated appointee to convene to discuss the diversity topics and issues and make recommendations to the chancellor and the Board of Regents on those proposed policies, practices, related strategies, and accountability measures in the realm of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. We do conduct, as a group, as an advisory council, a continuing review of those existing goals. We bring forth what's happening at our institutions. We look at our constituency, our demographics, and bring the issues forward that our students are engaged in or that affect them. Our group meets to provide opportunities for communication among our institutions. So our institutions have the opportunity monthly to connect, which is very important for our transparency, our communication, and to promote the best practices for ensuring that inclusion, diversity, equity, and access are represented among our students, staff, and faculty. Next slide, please. So in our roles, we serve to support and monitor the Board of Regents' goals and strategies on DEI and to ensure that we are aligned with the Regents' goals and strategies and that we encourage regular and continuous collaboration among our institutions, that we engage with our faculty, staff, and students on these issues, and that we keep current on them. And we support the Regents' charge with DEIA and keep our local committees and the IDEA Committee up to date with regular reports and support them with up-to-date research, data, and the charges that are outlined in the committee's mission related to DEI.
Next slide, please. And thank you, Chair Holt. So moving into the IDEA Council annual retreat, the retreat was held on February 23rd, 2024, and it was hosted by UNR, so we want to give thanks to Cheyenne. And we also want to thank President Sandoval and his team. Not only did they host the retreat, they also hosted the Diversity Summit the day before. So We had all been attending the summit, and so we just thought it would be a great idea to take what we've learned and take what we've all talked about the day before and go into the retreat with our eyes open, getting ready to have some very critical and difficult conversations about how do we as DEI officers move forward in a space that's very, very confrontational and divisive right now in our country. All you gotta do is watch the news and you see it. And so as DEI officers, many times we're very vulnerable because we are the ones who have to hear and are usually targeted when these types of things take place. But I can tell you that we do have a group of diversity officers who are resilient, very capable, and very committed to this work. So with that being said, we had a hybrid event. We had about 90% of the council in person here at UNR. And for those that couldn't make it, we did have a Zoom option. And as I said before, we just talked about the current challenges centered around DEI and what that means for Nevada. Because as we looked at the states around us, we've seen that DEI be wiped away from a lot of institutions throughout the country at the statewide level. And so, again, a lot of vulnerabilities, but people still being committed to the work. And one of the things that was great about this retreat is that we had Chair Cruz Crawford there the entire day, and she led the discussion. And there was some crying, there was laughter, there was moments of silence, but I do believe, and I think I speak for all of my colleagues, that it was very, very informative and a very, very good retreat that we think can lead to some good things in the idea space moving forward. Next slide, please. So we broke out into 4 groups to determine priorities. And Regent Cruz Crawford is good at this because she does it as part of her professional career with leading these types of discussions. And we were all asked to make a list of things that we needed immediate and ongoing attention in this space.
May I? Okay. So this was the day after the Diversity Summit, Chair Cruz Crawford for the record. And we have the IDEA committee, which is made out of the board of regents that are 5 regents. And IDEA, you know, it stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. And then our institutions have a council that's made out of their chief diversity officers. So I was able to, as a committee chair, go in and work with the council because they're really the eyes and ears of our universities and our institutions. And they honestly are way closer to the work than I am as a regent. We spent the day, and this is an exercise that I've done at the military level, the state level, and even at my school to problem solve problems. And we broke up into 4 groups. One group was able to identify 3 things that we're doing well as an organization, and another group was picking 3 things we do terribly. And then another 3 were able to do, the third group did recommendations, and the 4th was a discussion group. Every group was able to rotate through those. What we did is we took that ground level information and we compiled a report and came up with a list of priorities that support all of our students. And our top 3 priorities are really a conglomeration of input from each organization's chief diversity officer, and then Tillery will go into that piece. Or sorry, Mr. Williams, sorry.
Thank you, Regent Cruz Crawford. One of the things that I would say is once we got down to the end of the day and we started talking about kind of whittling down what we had done, what we saw was all of the groups, everything that we had talked about, even though we rotated through, were almost identical in nature. So next slide, please. So some of the common themes that we discussed and kind of fell on were funding for better data collection and better use of data to inform decision-making. A commitment to adequate institutional DEI office funding, chief diversity officer funding and support, equity and recruitment, retention and promotion, process consistency and data collection consistency in those areas, and clear and consistent communication between the IDEA Council, Council of Presidents, IDEA Committee, and the Chancellor. Next slide, please. So as we left the retreat, Regent Cruz Crawford and I and the Chancellor got together, and Regent Cruz Crawford was very adamant about, well, we know what the IDEA Council has identified. Now we want to take the show on the road and get the input of the system and the campus community. And so what came out of that was system-wide IDEA virtual listening sessions. And these were virtual in nature, took place on Monday, April 22nd. And the primary goal was to gather NSHE community input on priorities identified by IDEA Council at the 2024 IDEA Council retreat that I just mentioned. So there were 2 planned hour-long sessions. Most folks came to the noon session during their lunch hour, but we also had a session targeted for those who could do it after work, trying to be mindful that some folks may not be available during the lunch hour. And so we wanted to make sure that we could get as many people and participants as possible. Over 230 registrants for the noon session participated, and over 75 registrants for the second session. And we had 5 breakout groups, of course, because we had more people at the noon session, and 3 for the 6 p.m. session. So we had 3 discussion areas. We focused on current data collection efforts here in NSHE and throughout the institutions, and the effectiveness, roles, and support of chief diversity officers, as well as a conversation about an IDEA-specific climate survey. Next slide, please. And so here what you see are some common themes identified around our data collection efforts. We have this wonderful data collection center on the NSHE website, but there are many people that didn't even know it existed. There were some folks that said that the data collection is seen as insufficient, particularly in its failure to break down demographic details such as race, ethnicity, LGBTQA+ identities and disabilities. There were some challenges noted regarding the hiring and retention of faculty of color and the lack of systematic data collection. Also, a lack of a standardized approach for exit interviews and data collection to understand why people are leaving the system. And a lack of understanding of how NSHE uses collected data, particularly in addressing disparities of target areas for improvement. Next slide, please. As far as the Chief Diversity Officer common themes and feedback, what we heard was diversity officers should be a priority for the board, from the board level down, should be discussed at both a systematic and institutional level to effectively develop IDEA-related strategic priorities and to accomplish IDEA-related goals. Folks also wanted a commitment to adequately fund and support DEI offices. Many of our DEI offices are currently understaffed and under-budgeted. Most of our DEI officers on the IDEA Council have other jobs that they do, and diversity, the diversity in the DEI part of it is just, another duty as assigned. And we found out, and most folks said that we don't have institutions that have a designated chief diversity officer who only focuses on IDEA-related initiatives. Like I mentioned earlier, they often juggle many different job titles and duties. And that CDOs must be able to advocate without fear of silencing. Next slide, please. And lastly, common themes identified around the system-wide IDEA-related climate surveys. The one thing that I would talk about here is that we heard repeatedly, and this was probably the biggest take, is the #1 bullet point there. Folks want to see us fund the solutions to fix the problems we already are aware of, and let's shift from funding surveys to actively changing campus climates. Next slide, please. And these are some points that were also expressed in the listening sessions. I won't go through all of them. I'll just let you guys quickly read through them. But again, same thing that pretty much the Idea Council said at the retreat around data, Chief Diversity Officer funding, equity and recruitment, and clear and consistent communication between the board, our campus leaders, Chancellor, Idea Council, so forth and so on. Next slide, please. And before I hand it over to the Chancellor to provide the short-term solutions and what we have identified here today, I do want to say that we do have a new chair of the Idea Council coming on at the start of the fiscal year, July 1. That will be Dr. Lawrence Weekly at CSN, and I do believe Dr. Weekly is on the call. And so I wanted to take some time for Dr. Weekly to, one, introduce himself, but to also provide a few remarks if he so chooses.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tillery Williams. I appreciate you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Madam Chair, thank you so very much for your leadership. Thank you so very much for your vision. Thank you so very much for supporting the chief diversity officers on each of our campuses. We can't thank you enough for all that you provide for us, as well as to our chancellor. She has been a leader. She's been so supportive, and she's been a great guide. I'm Dr. Lawrence Weekly, Chief Diversity Officer and Chief of Staff here at the College of Southern Nevada. And I just want to say to my friends out at UNR, I got a chance to come to that diversity summit. I'm talking about 10 plus. They did a fantastic job, and so very grateful for the opportunity to be there. And Madam Chair, I know that we are short on time, but I'd be so remiss that if I didn't say hello to Regent Tartanian. I had an opportunity to serve with her for years. She used to bring me snacks, she used to bring me trail mix with pumpkin seeds. And I love her and I miss her. But we're excited. Raquel Melson, she's on with us. Raquel, turn your camera on really quick and just say hello. She's our new diversity officer as well here at CSN. And we just want to thank you all for giving us an opportunity to have a voice and to be able to have a seat at the table. And so, Raquel, if you want to say hello really quick, we sure appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. Raquel Melson, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at CSN. I look forward to the work we will do this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillery. We appreciate you, and thank you, Chancellor Patty, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weekly. If we could have the slides back, please. Thank you. For the record, Patty Charlton, Interim Chancellor. I will be very brief. I know we have a lot of time left to make up today, but just as noted on the short-term solution, we have much work to be done. I think that is one thing that is a takeaway for all of us. As we shared in the observations from the listening sessions, as it pertained that individuals didn't even know that we had a data dashboard that included the level of detail. If Regent Arascata was here, he would be championing that. That's been a big charge of his, is to ensure that everybody is aware of that data dashboard. My commitment in working with the presidents is to continue conversations that have historically occurred between the IDEA Council, which is coordinated through me, as well as with the presidents. It was disturbing to know that some individuals didn't even know that there were chief diversity officers. So how can we raise awareness of challenges and concerns when some people were not aware of that? But communication is something that we can definitely improve upon. I already touched on data and the importance of that. I think the climate survey is an important one that we also need to engage in. I honestly will say that we don't really have a point to recommend organization structure, but again, I think the awareness of the wonderful diversity officers that we have, and really elevating their voice in communication with you as well, and to continue these opportunities for us to engage in system-wide not just internal to NSHE, but also community-based listening sessions to really set the path forward and to bring meaningful recommendations back to this body as we move forward. Information, communication, and engagement is the most important of all. So those are some of our short-term solutions. And next slide. And with that, I was quick. And so are there any questions of the committee for us today?
Regent Goodman.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just have a couple of points. What do you mean by CDOs must advocate without fear of silencing? What does that mean?
Yeah, so when we were in our retreat, just giving the CDOs autonomy to be able to have difficult discussions without having fear of, retaliation from a board member or a boss or anything of that nature. So it was just very general.
If I may, I think it's very important, and I just saw this just a few minutes ago, but I think it's important that we take the politics out of this. I think what's really important is that we're trying to get kids, access and trying to be inclusive, diverse, have equity, have access. And I just feel like we get too stuck in the politics of all this. And so, I'm so sorry. I guess my concern is I'm looking at all those points, and that's really what I see the biggest challenge being is that access. It's getting those kids who don't think that they can go to school, who are graduating from high school right now, and they think that they don't have an opportunity. And I'd love to see something like that on there so that it's something that I feel very passionately about is making sure those pathways work and making sure that they're even there. That's the biggest piece for me.
So Regent Goodman, if I could, thank you for that, because as you know, we have a majority minority system and we need to ensure that everyone feels that they have that access. And so we will definitely continue to work with the presidents as well as all the efforts that they have underway, including their academic, student affairs. It really has to be a team coming together as one.
Regent Brooks. Regent Brooks, and then I'll go to Regent. Is there any committee members that would like to speak? Okay, Regent Brooks, and then we'll go to Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Chair. Regent Brooks for the record. I just have two quick things. One is actually for the interim chancellor, and while on the slides we got to see those who are part of the IDEA committee for the board, but what I didn't see was the list of those who are involved with the IDEA council. And if the board could be furnished with something like that, I know I would appreciate that to have a better understanding of who's evaluating some of the things that might be brought forward to the council in relation to action that the board wants to take. And then, Mr. Tillery,
Regent Brooks, if I could, just for the record, so yes, I will get the current roster for you and provide it to all of the board members. I will say that there's also opportunity to revisit the membership to ensure that it is representing all of the difficult conversations that we must have and the representation of groups across the system and the community.
Thank you. Mr. Tillery, when you were eloquently offering some of your concerns and opinions. One of them was that DEI officers are vulnerable right now. And I'm just wondering if perhaps you can clarify that just a little bit. And please keep in mind that my context of this has more to do with the things that are happening on campus with students. And so what would that mean for you in terms of, Mr. Tiller, in terms of you feeling vulnerable?
Well, I would like to say that as an African-American male who grew up in the Deep South, my commitment to this work of representing all students, regardless of race, religion, national origin, creed, is there. I don't take lightly to representing one group and not another. So when I say vulnerable, what I mean is we can't operate without understanding what's going on around us. And I can just tell you that there are states that have totally dismantled DEI. And to think that it could never happen in Nevada, I think we'd be really, really kidding ourselves, because it could. So as my story, as a person of color, as other people's story, as women, this could mean trans women, other people's story, I think that we are vulnerable because right now it's very political, even within this own board and this state. So when I say vulnerable, that's the context. And I would be remiss not to say that it's not just me, it's everybody in this space. Because if we don't learn from history, it's gonna repeat itself. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure, just for my own clarification, when you talk about the vulnerability of yourself as a DEI officer, you're not afraid to be on campus and let folks know that you're part of DEI efforts. That's not anything that you would be concerned about concealing. Is that
Oh,
fair?
but I am. But it doesn't stop me from doing the work. I'm cognizant of it. But I go to the campuses and I meet with everybody. Matter of fact, there are people that are at UNLV that I am in constant contact with, centering around the conversation and public comment. So I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't afraid, but that fear does not stop me from doing my job and doing it effectively.
So then your fear, you equate that in the way that you've explained it to me, is reminiscent of Jewish students who are on campus right now who are afraid to identify that they're Jewish. And so there's something in your capacity of work as a DEI officer where you have that same type of concern that you would be afraid to identify that you're a DEI officer when you're on campus.
I think typically and generally you can make that parallel, but I wouldn't just stop it there at the Jewish students. I mean, we had an incident at UNR, and I would say that for our African-American students and Latino students and so forth and so on.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other discussion, questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions and I'll keep them short and brief, I hope. And my first question is to Interim Chancellor. I had no idea that we have, pun on the word, that we have all these committees in each institution. Why couldn't we consolidate them all and have them at NSHE and just have one committee that takes care of all of this? My second question, if I may follow up before I forget it, is do we have a report of what the IDEA committee does and the cases or the intelligence, the things that have been happening in our institutes? Do we have something like that in writing that the board could see so we are aware of how important this work is and that it must be in every institute? Why can we not save the taxpayers' money and have one office for NSHE? Two questions there, so if you remember the first one, please.
I do.
Sorry.
So for the record, Patty Charlton, Interim Chancellor. So first, Regent Boylan, I would tell you that and I don't want to speak on behalf of the institutions, but I think that the committees that they have on their campuses are very important. They're unique and specific to their campuses, their populations, and the issues that they have. I think the campuses led by their chief diversity officers have a wide array of constituent groups and stakeholders that they're working with from all types of populations. And so I would say that what we do benefit from having the IDEA Council that then provides updates to this committee is that there is a culmination of all of the amazing work that is happening at the campuses, facilitated through those chief diversity officers, to basically bring that information together. I will tell you, they work very closely hand in hand as a group, and they also learn from each other through their best practices. I think one of the best examples is the diversity summits that happen every year and they rotate between the institutions, both in the South and in the North. And so I would say that I would not recommend just having the IDEA Council and at the NSHE level, because we would really miss us a huge opportunity to engage with all the stakeholders at the different campuses. As a part of this committee, each meeting, there are...
One second, ma'am.
Oh, yes, sir.
Ma'am, 1 second. So, because I don't want to forget this. So you're saying that we would miss that opportunity with this modern age of telecommunications and everything. We have all of that stuff to put it together. So I don't get why we as a board, me as a board, we haven't seen the work that they're doing and the cases that have come about. And are there so many that we need the different councils and the different CDOs and the different et cetera, in each institution? Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Why could we not consolidate it and know exactly what's happening?
Certainly.
Mr. Drew, you can answer. Go ahead.
No, I'm probably going to turn it to Mr. Williams here in just a moment. But I would also say that as part of this committee, one of the things that we have is updates that come from each of those chief diversity officers as part of the standing agenda. We also know, and we've encouraged Regent Cruz Crawford that as the chair, she also has the opportunity to convene this committee as is necessary to increase communication. We can also do some additional written work to provide updates, and I know that the board is very interested in ongoing and increased communication as well. And so the more that we can provide of the activities that occur on the campuses, I think that's best. I'm going to also ask Mr. Williams to just go back to your first question about the level of engagement and the need for, and I understand what you're saying, in this age of technology where we're having this meeting via the state, why can't we just perhaps just do this as one group? I still think, again, with the large array of our institutions, there's an opportunity, but I'm going to let him follow up.
And Director Williams, I
one
apologize.
second.
I'm just going to say if there is any questions about new business, Boylan, like if you do have a question about wanting to consolidate, that's something that can be done during new business as well. And then I did want to chime in. I don't want to interrupt though. Director Williams is, I equate the chief diversity officer on each campus, thinking about like my campus at my school. I have like a school counselor, a school social worker, and it's direct. They have to have relationships within their communities for people to feel safe to come to them. And if that was removed off of campus, they can't connect them to direct resources or pathways to help them. And so I think having a centralized CDO would take away every type of connection that they have to be able to build that relationship and connect them to resources, and then be able to report on specific campus issues. However, if Mr. Williams would like to address that.
Madam Chair, before we do that,
Go ahead, sir.
My question was not answered by the Chancellor. So if there is so much work that's going on and we need all these studios and councils, and this has got nothing to do with new business, this is a question on an agendized item. We're talking about this. It's a presentation. My question is, if we have so many cases and all, is there a database that the board will receive that we can check and we can see? And why haven't we, if there is one, in all these cases and all these institutions? That's my concern, is are we just repeating ourselves because it's the politically correct thing to do?
So the database that we were using is, which we talked about at the CDOs, is our graduation rates from our protected classes, our retention of our different race and ethnicity of professors. So that overall scale, which is standard, right? I do that in the military. It's our recruitment and retention numbers as the equal opportunity officer. Same thing, equated to CDOs. That would show in the data when we do have gaps in graduation rates, which we do between race, ethnicity, and genders. We're able to target those populations to give them wraparound resources. So that's the data collection
Madam
piece.
Chair.
And then
I don't mean to be rude, but it's still, no one's answering this question. Why has the board not seen all the work that these CDOs and councils and all have done in a written report that I can feel, smell, taste, chew, or maybe? But why haven't we seen this when we have such an important business going on in all our institutions? That's my concern.
So Regent Boylan, Patty Charlton,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Chancellor, for the record, I do believe that this information is shared with you in a number of different opportunities. One of the things that we have suspended for just the calendar year 24, but it will be resumed, is the data metrics presentation. A lot of the work that's happening behind the scenes is some of that data that you have seen that our presidents have provided in the past. We're going to be reinstituting those, but making sure that they're meaningful, that make sense for the board in that data form. We also see that information as we look at financial aid, for example, and there's financial aid presentations to the ARSA committee. And so you'll see that as it pertains to access opportunities and financial aid that's available through scholarships and other types of programs. So there are lots of different avenues in which we provide information, but I think what you may be alluding to is how can we see all this in one place at one time to see all of the benefits of the work that's been done? And if I got that wrong, then
Yes,
I can
ma'am.
certainly talk to you about that.
No, yes, you're right. That's what I was trying to look for, and I thank you for your time. And I thank Chair Cruz Crawford. I'm not on this committee, but this was a nagging question I had, and I thank you for that, ma'am. But I'm sure there's many people who'd like to know what are we doing and how are we justifying all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so it sounds like we're done with this agenda item unless there's any more questions. Okay, moving on, we're going on to item number 6. This is 10 minutes. It's the Undocumented Student Success Council, and this is an information-only item presented by the UNLV Resource Coordinator of the Undocumented Student Program, Nayeli Rico Lopez. Oh, sorry, there's a team. And NSU's Manager for Undocumented Student Programs, Mariana Hernandez, and CSN Lead Counselor Esther Pla Cazares will provide an update on council initiatives and activities.
Thank you so much. For the record, my name is Mariana Sarmiento, last name Sarmiento.
And for the record, my name is Brenda Romero, last name Romero.
A couple of our members weren't able to join us, but Brenda and I are here to still provide the same information. So I'd like to thank you all for your attention, having us here today. Thank you to the Regents for your time. And also thank you to the IDEA Committee for continuously being an ally with us in this work. As I mentioned, my name is Mariana Sarmiento, and I manage the Undocumented Student Program at Nevada State University. I also co-chair the Undocumented Student Success Council, which is a topic of today's discussion. And I'm also a DACA recipient, right? DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and that means that I myself am an undocumented immigrant, right? I was raised here in Las Vegas my entire life. I also attended our K through 12 system in CCSD, and I am a proud graduate of UNLV's through my bachelor and my master's degree. And so because of that, I'm really excited to be here with you today to share some of the successes and the progress that we've made through this particular council. And I'm joined by my colleague, Brenda.
Good morning, my name is Brenda Romero. I am the coordinator for undocumented student programs at the College of Southern Nevada. And like Mariana stated, I am also a past DACA recipient, and I'm a proud product of CCSD, and I'm also an alumni of CSN and UNLV. So today we'll be discussing our work and current needs of our undocumented students within our system. So at its core, the mission of the USSC is to build a comprehensive statewide support system for our undocumented students, faculty, and staff. In 2017, the rescission of DACA made it evident to NSHE institutions that tangible, specialized services were needed for undocumented students and staff to navigate the systemic barriers they faced. DACA offered protection from deportation and work authorization, but the rescission highlighted uncertainty students faced, making it necessary for institutionalized support. As a result of years of organizing and countless advocates, we saw an institutionalization dedicated to supporting undocumented students by creating liaisons and resource services at UNR, UNLV, CSN, TMCC, and NSU.
All right. This is particularly important to discuss because in the state of Nevada, we actually have one of the highest per capita shares of undocumented people, right? And by extension, that includes undocumented students and families who have a mixed immigration status, which are families who might have different family members who have different immigration statuses, including citizens, legal permanent residents, undocumented students, and DACA recipients as well. We also know that undocumented people come from all parts of the world, right? We have undocumented people from diverse nationalities, diverse backgrounds, all with their own unique needs, but also very similar needs at the same time, right? And so that's part of the work we do. A lot of the work that we've been focusing on currently is actually related to supporting students who do not have access to DACA, right? So currently about 60% of our students in colleges across the country do not have access to DACA. And we are seeing those similar numbers here in Nevada. And those numbers are only increasing as each year goes by, right, because of the rescission back in 2017. And so what we're seeing now, similar to 2017, is an incredible urgency around how we're going to support these students who are graduating and essentially being locked out of employment and work authorization in these really pivotal professions like education, business, et cetera. Additionally, we really just want to bring home the idea that the students that we work with are homegrown Nevadans, right? Like these are students similar to Brenda and I who attended, K through 12 in our state, who are contributing to our community, and who want nothing more than to continue doing that, right? And so it really is our goal as a system to ensure that they have those opportunities to do that.
And as we can see here, some of the student needs that have been stated to us by our students is financial barriers, legal precarity, healthcare, and work authorization. And when it comes to our undocumented students, the most common barrier that we hear about is with financial aid. This is due to our undocumented population not being eligible for federal student aid, the lack of work authorization, and the lack of navigational capital due to first-generation status. Many of our students may also receive inaccurate or misleading information from K through 12 and higher education systems about eligibility for institutional and state aid and the resources that are available to them.
So in order to close this particular opportunity gap related to financial aid, it's important for us to be explicit about which resources are available to undocumented students. This involves ensuring that our staff, our faculty, and our administrators are trained and informed on which of those resources are available to undocumented and documented students. This also requires us to do the work, right, of continuously assessing which scholarships or which resources are not yet available to all students, right? One example of how we can do this is by removing requirements such as work authorization, social security numbers, or FAFSA requirements, if that's possible for particular programs.
And I know we've touched on this topic a little bit during this conversation, but work authorization is another barrier that our undocumented students currently face. Our students have are completing graduate programs, getting professional licenses and the credentials to work in many places like hospitals, classrooms, banks, and more. However, a lack of work authorization prevents them from being employed, even in a severe shortage of healthcare and educational professionals in our state.
This is such an important point. Like, we work with students in this situation every day, and we as a state are missing out on ensuring that these students are in our systems, right? And so one of the ways that we're able to do this is really understanding, right, that on a federal level, what we really need is a pathway to citizenship for these students at the root of this issue, right? And certainly we can continue advocating for that as a system, and we should do that. At the same time, there are other tangible steps that we can take on an institutional level, right? And so some of that includes ensuring that we provide education and training around alternatives to employment that are open to all students, including independent contracting, consulting, and starting a business, which are all accessible to all students. Additionally, this includes providing paid professional opportunities while students are in our schools through potentially paid fellowships or internships that don't require work authorization.
Although our undocumented students continue to face various challenges, the work of students and advocates, many of them being part of this council, have created equitable opportunities for our undocumented students and staff. In 2023, we collaborated with NSHE to inform the passage of AB 226 to improve access for in-state tuition for TPS holders and GED and HiSET recipients. In 2020, we hosted a virtual town hall on DACA issues, and we've also hosted legal clinics and resource workshops in collaboration with the UNLV Immigration Clinic. And it's important. Another important point is making this work visible and sharing key data through presentations at at the state diversity summits and consulting with NSHE on the central webpage for undocumented student about their liaisons and the resources across the state. And across the board, undocumented students throughout NSHE have asked for support navigating these alternative forms of employment and professional development, and this must become a priority for career services offices, our offices, and campuses as we continue retaining students and setting them up for postgraduate success. So again, we urge the development of paid non-employment-based opportunity services, also known as NEBOs, that would allow students to gain professional development opportunities and experience in their fields.
So we certainly understand that it can be very daunting, right? And this is just a snippet that we've shared today of all of the work that is being done across the state by advocates, not just undocumented student coordinators, but folks in financial aid offices, admissions offices, et cetera. And we are definitely welcome further conversations about this work, absolutely. And so we really just wanted to leave you today with 2 tangible steps that can be taken to create a really big impact, right? And one of these is what Brenda mentioned, really expanding workforce development for students, keeping in mind that, there's a huge group of students that are graduating with full, licenses that are not able to access these professions. And so what can we do, on an institutional level? And then secondly, we've also noted across the board that advocates need legal services, right? And so this is important because legal immigration services are important for folks to be able to identify whether they have a pathway to adjust their status, right? And then have the resources to adjust their status, which is of course what we want all our students to have access to. We know that higher education systems across the country have already implemented these kind of free legal immigration services. And we already have something here in Nevada through the UNLV Immigration Clinic called University Legal Services. But we really believe that it's time that we expand these services to all students across the board. These would benefit not only undocumented students, but mixed status families, immigrant students themselves, right, who are not necessarily undocumented. And so we really have made it a priority through our council, the NSHE USSC, to expand those services through the legislative session and have conversations with different institutions. But we absolutely need institutions and the IDEA Council and folks to be on board with this, right, and support our students. And so lastly, thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate this sort of platform to share this progress. We know that the road ahead for immigrant students is bumpy and uncertain, but we have hope, right, that with this collection and a collective of DA professionals, we can continue making this progress. Thank you so much.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of our undocumented student organizations for advocating. It's not easy work. I know every case is different, so it's very hard to navigate, and I appreciate that. I've had student teachers at my school that are phenomenal teachers. They can graduate, they can pay for college, but when it comes to licensure, they're not able to be hired by the districts. So I appreciate the problem solving that we're doing, and I know a lot of it relies on federal, but I appreciate that you're never giving up. Thank you. I'm going to open this to any questions or comments. Regent Goodman, and then Regent Del Carlo, sorry.
I think the vital piece of this is that path to citizenship. And are you working with our federal delegation? And, it just seems so, these are all students that want to be here, who are working hard. And it just seems like we should be doing a better job of getting them the citizenship that, that they need. other things are happening politically where we're just letting people in, but these are the students that are doing the work and showing that they want to be here, and it makes sense.
Absolutely. It definitely makes sense. Through this council and through the NSHE, we've been able to advocate and sign on to various letters throughout the years, right? For about 10 years now, supporting things like a DREAM Act, supporting things like expanded DACA protections, right? And unfortunately, we haven't seen that progress, right, on the federal level. But I will say on the state level, we've seen things like expanded access to professional licenses for all students, right? And so this is really why we bring home this idea that there are really tangible things that we can be doing right now instead of, waiting for a federal solution, which we will obviously continue advocating for.
Regent Del Carlo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your work. I've always felt that the students, they're like, quote, victims because they have no say in any of this, and we should support them. And they are productive citizens. And when they can't get licensure for the different fields, have you guys followed what they end up doing? I mean, I know some of these have been waiting since I've been on the board. This is my 8th year. We have never, it's got to be solved at the federal level, as Regent Goodman pointed out. But I mean, what are these students doing that have, I'm sure, incurred some debt, or I know they get scholarships because they're not eligible for Pell, correct?
Correct.
So have you followed them?
That's a great question. And I think this is really a great chance for us to really think about that, right? Because we do have students right now who we know are graduating, for example, from Nevada State, right? And they're fully licensed teachers at that point. And so their options are to create a business, right? Where they can provide alternative types of support, like perhaps tutoring support, right? But we have other students who have graduated even before this, right? Like a decade ago, who essentially have to work other jobs that are not related to their field, and we're missing out, right? Like we're missing out on that expertise and that knowledge ultimately.
Thank you. And I would just say, I don't even think our legislature could fix that because you have to have the license.
Well, they have, to kind of clarify, they have professional licenses in the state of Nevada. We have a really great comprehensive bill that allows anybody in the state to be licensed regardless of immigration status through an individual taxpayer identification number if they don't have a social security number. So that's fantastic. The issue, though, is that they cannot be employed, right? Because they don't have work authorization. And so that's kind of that barrier that this is the reason why on our campuses right now, we're pushing things like, how can you start a business? How can you be an independent contractor? So they can still use these skills, but they're doing something else to make money as well.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for asking that question, Regent Del Carlo, because I think we need to say it to the community over and over again, right? They're able to get their license, but they can't get hired, in turn not paying state taxes, and it's hurting Nevada as a whole. Before I go on to Regent Boylan, any committee members have questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I'm not on this committee and I appreciate the time to speak. This question, I'm sure, would go to the young lady as well as to Mr. Tillery. How closely do you work with the IDEA Council and the IDEA committees and such? Because it looks like something without we could, fuse together or something. How closely do you work with them?
Thank you, Regent Boylan. Tillery Williams, Director of Community Engagement, Equity, and Inclusion. So the Undocumented Student Success Council is under the umbrella of the IDEA Council and Committee. So it's a sub-council. So we work with them pretty regularly.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I just thought that would be great. So it's already being done. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Great idea. Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you so much for your time and your advocacy. We're going to move on to agenda item 7, which is information only. IDEA Council Campus Activity Update with Angela Holt, the IDEA Council Chair and the Director of the College of Career Readiness through Western Nevada College. She's going to provide an update on IDEA-related activities at each NSHE institution in 5 minutes.
Yes, 5 minutes. I put my auctioneer skills to the test here. I don't have those, so wish me luck. I do want to say thank you, Chair Cruz Crawford, Regents, IDEA Committee, and Chancellor Charlton for your unwavering support of our IDEA Council and our efforts. Your dedication to fostering diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility within our institutions has been instrumental in driving meaningful change across the NSHE system. We deeply appreciate your leadership and commitment. The remarkable work being done by each institution in advancing DEI initiatives is truly inspiring, and it has been an honor and privilege to work among these professionals. Your support has empowered us to create more inclusive environments where every student, faculty, staff member can thrive. Together, we're making a significant impact, and we look forward to continuing this support with your guidance. So I will start with Western Nevada College. The DEI Committee at Western Nevada College has undergone a thorough restructuring to better support the goals set forth by President Dalpy for strategic initiatives in FY25, thereby enhancing its effectiveness in fostering a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion and access at our campus. As part of Truckee Meadow Community College's awarded HHS grant, Kyle Weiss-Strobel facilitated training sessions on LGBTQIA+ topics and facilitated a Train the Trainer event, and also provided a collection of books on these topics for our institution. Truckee Meadows Community College celebrated Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with Bollywood lessons and a panel on Asian American Pacific Islander wellness. They held a Unity graduation and saw 60 student participants and about 200 attendees. They organized a program for Native American students on safety, planning, understanding domestic violence, and leveraging campus resources. 5 individuals attended the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity. Desert Research Institute. DRI completed its annual Inclusion and Belonging Survey at the end of 2023 and finalized the data report and recommendations in February 2024. DRI's IDEA Committee held an event in March on understanding and recognizing bias in the workplace. This was well attended at both campuses and included both in-person and online activities. Lastly, DRI's IDEA Committee is currently recruiting new members for the next 2-year term that will begin on July 1st. UNLV held the second annual Mental Health Forum and recognized UNLV Jewish and Staff Groups as the UNLV Jewish and Staff Group as an official affinity group. Selected to receive the Sloan Centers for Systemic Change grant to improve educational environments in STEM doctoral programs, and held a Finding Common Ground series on protecting freedom of religion and human dignity. Great Basin College hosted a Thousand Cranes event honoring Asian Pacific American communities and Native American beadwork workshops. They formed their first DEI club and planned cultural and diversity-focused events for the fall. Upcoming events include creating a collaborative mosaic pride flag and hosting Native American programming and summer leadership programming. College of Southern Nevada. CSN has hired a coordinator for undocumented student programs. The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion has been conducting equity training for CSN's executive leadership team, guided by Achieving the Dreams Equity Framework and Equity Toolkit, covering 3 of 8 equity principles so far. They have hosted 6 diversity graduation celebrations, including the Mosaic, which honored service members and featured diverse performances and an honor cord ceremony. CSN's Asian Pacific Islander Middle Eastern community received a proclamation from the Mayor of Las Vegas and the City Council declaring April 25th, 2024 as Asian American Pacific Islander Middle Eastern Day. Hosted a community discussion called Advocating for the Future of DEI with nearly 100 attendees from the campus community, CCSD students, and community partners and leaders. The NSHE HSI Hispanic Serving Institution Task Force, led by Dr. Clarissa Cota, Vice President of the North Las Vegas campus, meets monthly with representatives from all NSHE institutions, including DRI. Nevada is unique in having a unified HSI task force to enhance student services and share best practices. This spring, CSN hosted the American Association for Hispanics in Higher Education Conference. In 22, NSHE In 2022, NSHE institutions served 104,105 students, with 31.7% identifying as Hispanic. 5 out of 7 institutions are Hispanic-serving institutions, and 3 are also minority-serving institutions. Last fall, the task force created an HSI-MSI track within the Southern Nevada Diversity Summit, featuring sessions on HSI-MSI research and keynote speakers like Dr. Gina Garcia and representatives from the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity. CSN supported 4 students attending the HAKU annual conference in Chicago. And recently, the task force developed a white paper presented to the Nevada congressional delegation during the HAKU Capitol Forum in April 2024, emphasizing the importance of increased federal funding for HSI grants, highlighting the 3 Title V grants in Nevada. University of Nevada, Reno. On June 1st, the university appointed Dr. Melanie Duckworth as the Executive Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. During the spring 2024 semester, 243 faculty, staff, and students completed 4-part Foundations for Advancing Belonging training series. The Asian American and Indigenous Pacific Islander Affinity Group, ASPIRE, was established as a university-wide working group evolving from its beginnings in the College of Liberal Arts 3 years ago. ASPIRE focuses on shaping and advancing AAPI initiatives on campus and addressing related issues. Nevada State University. Nevada State University will be hosting the 2024 Southern Nevada Diversity Summit. NSU received an unprecedented number of proposal submissions, more than doubling what they have received in previous years. NSU's Multicultural Collective welcomed 1,000 plus visitors in its first academic year since opening. The collective also hosted 50 plus programs throughout the space throughout the year. Lastly, NSU graduated its largest class of the Dream U.S. Scholars ever. Thank you once again for your support and guidance as we continue to advance DEI initiatives across our institutions.
Thank you. We're now moving on to, any questions, comments, or concerns? Regent Goodman.
Thank you for that presentation. It sounds like we're doing a great job system-wide, and I know that UNLV was recently named like top 34 most diverse universities, so we're doing a great job in this state, and I can't help myself, but I would just ask, let's be aware of some of the other students that, are not included in all of this, like what I was talking about earlier. We have students on campus. This is all about students. I think that the council should maybe have a conversation and just try to figure out how we support our students that are feeling afraid, in this case, the Jewish students on campuses. So I would just ask that you just take note of that moving forward. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Thank you so much, Angela. It's been a pleasure working with you. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Agenda item 9. Are there any items of new business or consideration at a future meeting? Before we begin, I'd like to say that I would like for new business, I don't know if this is new business or if it just continue on. I'd like IDEA Council to examine agenda item 8, specifically working with Jewish student groups to identify what definition needs to be adopted for the next meeting. And that's all I have for new business. Any other new business items? Regent Ariscata.
Close enough. I think it would be beneficial for the IDEA committee to have a breakdown on the IDEA Council of the representation of diversities on the IDEA Council, in addition to if there's student representation and faculty staff, make sure that we have a wide range of diversity. I think it's imperative in order to have not just equity, but also appropriate representation. There's levels of underrepresented students on each and every campus. I know it, I feel it, and I think it's necessary to have each and every one of those have a voice on this, not just this table, but in this room. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify for that new business, so the council is made out of the chief diversity officers where the students report to them. So did you want demographics of those from the council or, sorry, Chancellor, I'll let you take that over.
Regent Cruz Crawford, thank you for the record. Patty Charlton, Interim Chancellor. So the council is actually a broader representation, and as noted, I will provide a roster of the 23-24 members and that breakdown, and then we'll be looking forward, and we'll provide that for the 24-25 year as well.
Short and sweet. Thank you.
Any other new business? Okay, seeing none and hearing none. We're going to go on to item number 10, public comment. Is there any do I have to say the phone number again? No. Okay. Is there any public comment at GBC?
There is no public comment at GBC.
Is there any public comment at the system office in Las Vegas?
There is no public comment in Las Vegas.
Is there any public comment here at UNR? Looks like one. Go ahead and approach the podium, spell your last name, and begin when you're ready.
Jocelyn Simmons, last name Simmons. Chancellor, Regents, University Presidents, everyone in attendance. I'm an undergraduate majoring in sociology and gender, race, and identity here at UNR. I'm a McNair Scholar. I am also an honors scholar and an undergraduate researcher, and I also happen to be a transgender woman. While I didn't choose to be born this way, I am proud of my journey, especially as it has led me to academia and research. Today, with apologies for the lateness of what I am addressing, I would like to address Regent Patrick J. Boylan directly regarding his comments concerning participation of transgender individuals in athletics. I realize these comments were made quite some time ago. I had hoped to be able to directly interact with Regent Boylan today, but online will have to suffice. Regent Boylan, it is not my place to judge you, and I find it reasonable to believe that you are a rational and honorable individual. As a husband, father, rescue dog owner, and Nevada System of Higher Education regent, I trust that you have the best of intentions. Your concerns about safety and fairness for cisgender women in sports likely stems from you wanting to protect and ensure fairness for all athletes, which is admirable. While I am not an athlete, collegiate sports are built upon the principles of inclusivity, teamwork, and excellence. Our coaches and athletic directors are deeply committed to the safety and well-being of all of their athletes, regardless of their physical attributes or social labels. Besides the laws and policies in place to protect collegiate athletes, coaches, and athletic directors work tirelessly to create a safe and fair environment where every athlete can thrive regardless of their gender identity, as long as they embody the dedication to excellence their sport requires. Regent Boylan, I have emailed you previously and would now like to publicly extend that invitation for a one-on-one conversation. I am not here as a representative of the transgender community, but as an individual willing to share my story and listen to yours. Through this dialogue, I hope we can find a common ground and shared humanity, leading to further conversations with members of the student body who all deserve and have a right to feel safe. I encourage an open mind and willingness to engage in this important conversation, and thank you for your time and consideration.
SCS, is there any public comment on the phone?
There are no online callers at this time, Madam Chair.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.